Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about a potentially significant storm which looks like it's about to affect parts of Ireland, Wales and England during the early hours of tomorrow morning and also parts of the mid-morning as well. So let's get started into it. So this is the latest run of the Icon weather model that just came in pretty recently, in the last, I think, half an hour or so. And you can see immediately that it's showing a sort of spell of very strong winds moving in from parts of the Atlantic, transferring through the Irish Sea, south of Ireland, and then into parts of Wales, southern England, and the Midlands. And if you just generally look on this chart, you can see that spell of pretty strong winds is expected through this region. And if I just draw out the expected areas that we're expected to see it, you can see that we are expected to see some gusts quite strong, possibly 50, even 60 miles an hour inland, transferring through this region. And you can notice that especially through this Irish Sea area, we do have the chance for some very strong gusts, as shown by this Icon weather model, and especially on coasts and hills. As you can see here, we could see gusts of 70 or even 80 miles an hour, and you can see here it is showing a maximum of winds around 90 miles an hour, and so it does look like it has the potential to be quite damaging. For inland, we're not likely to see gusts that strong. You can see this is actually showing a few pockets of 70 to 80 mile an hour gusts inland. So it does look like we could see some very strong gusts inland, just not as strong as on the coasts. But in an area basically through the Midlands, kind of north of London and through Wales, this general region, it does look like we could see 55 to 65 mile an hour gusts fairly widely, as you can see like that. If we look at another weather model, right, this is the arpeg model. You can see it's showing a relatively similar thing, which means that the models are in agreement with this area of very strong winds moving off the off the Atlantic through the Irish Sea and into parts of England and Wales. And you can see this is kind of similar with that area of strongish winds kind of through the Midlands, north of London, and this also has a bit of a stronger winds kind of in the York and Humber area, like so. And so it does look like we could see the potential through this region for 50 to 60 mile an hour gusts fairly widely inland. We're just going to look at one last weather model before we carry on, and this is the Rome model. By the way, these are all high definition, kind of high resolution models, and you can see it's showing again relatively similar thing. Widespread gusts of 50 to 60 miles an hour inland. Some areas inland even get a bit higher, and especially this area kind of from the Wash down to the Bristol Channel, really seeing potential for the strongest gusts, and through the Midlands as well. And then along the coast, like I was saying before, and hills, we could see possibly gusts 70, maybe even 80 miles an hour. And there could be some pretty large waves from this as well. And if you're getting the 70 to 80 mile an hour kind of gusts moving through the sea, that can always cause some large waves, that kind of thing. So that's something that you need to be aware of if you're kind of on the coast. So moving along, this is the weather graphic that I made earlier, and it's basically showing the kind of the severity of the winds in each location. And in this yellow area, we're expecting winds to be widely 50 to 60 miles an hour inland, and then on coasts possibly 70 miles an hour. And then in this orange region, which we've got one across Wales and England, and we also have one across Ireland, we're expecting wind gusts to be 55 to 65 miles an hour inland, and then 80 miles an hour on coasts. And there could be some pretty heavy showers with this as well, but generally 50 to 65 mile an hour wind gusts inland and 70 to 80 mile an hour gusts on the coast. And the kind of things we could possibly expect from this is maybe trees down, some very minor structural damage, so possibly one or two shingles being blown off roofs, and also any loose objects in the garden could be blown around, so make sure that you tie those down. If we look at current observations, we can see that we have wind gusts already. Oh wow, this just came in, and we just had a wind gust to 86 miles an hour in parts of northwest Wales. So this is an elevated station. I'm not exactly sure of the elevation, but I think it's fairly elevated. But we just saw a gust of 86 miles an hour here. So that's just breaking news. But you can see what I was generally talking about is we have these strong gusts already starting to spread in, and they are just going to continue to get stronger, with a peak of the winds probably around 3 a.m. on Thursday to kind of 7 a.m. on Thursday. So the 7 a.m. is kind of more this area, and 3 a.m. is more this area, but the winds will be transferring through the early hours of tomorrow morning like that. And if you look at the surface pressure chart, you can already see that we have this big low pressure system right here, as you can see here. And this is the one that's going to rapidly deepen. You can kind of see that along this low pressure system, we have this kind of tighter area of isobars, which is from an older low pressure system. And that kind of tighter area of isobars is what's going to be bringing those strong winds. And you can see it already starting to show up here just along the edge of that map. But to already have gusts of 86 miles an hour here and the strongest winds are still out here, it just shows you things are possibly going to get a lot worse. And based on this already, what kind of wind speeds already, that latest breaking news of 86 miles an hour, wouldn't be completely surprised to get a gust of 90, 95, possibly even 100 miles an hour, though that probably could be a bit excessive. But we're going to wrap up now. But in summary, quite a severe windstorm, especially along coastal areas, and inland gusts of 55 to 65 miles an hour throughout tomorrow morning. Thank you for watching, everyone. Have a nice night.